Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another edition of High School Roundup here on CUTV and CUTV Sports 1. I'm your host, John Sakaguchi. Joined with me, to my left, as always, Peyton Trollinger. Peyton, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic today, Johnny. I cannot wait to get this episode of High School Roundup started. And, yeah, let's just get right into it.
All right, we got a lot to talk about on a little bit of time. So let's take a look at the highlights we got for this week. So starting off, thanks to our friends at WMBS and South Union Township for these. From the backyard brawl on Senior Day at Uniontown as they took on Laurel Highlands. The opening kickoff here as we get set. And 3, 2, 1, ball is kicked on a squib, trying to keep it away from Rodney Gallagher. But hold your cards as the ball pops out. And who else recovers it? It's the Uniontown kicking team, but not only that, it's my stepbrother Tyler Hawk coming away with the ball. So after getting on third and a mile, Uniontown starts making some positive yardage on a tip drill caught by Miles into the end zone, untouched for 6, puts Uniontown up. But Rodney Gallagher and the Mustangs wouldn't go away easily as they let Rodney Gallagher do his thing and runs right through the defense in for 6. Would tie the game up 7-7 shortly after Uniontown gets stalled out. Well, Rodney Gallagher takes it from the 2 in for 6 again and puts the Mustangs up 14-7. And Uniontown here trying to route on some offense as Jackson takes it up the middle for a nice gain, but would stall out at the midfield. That'd be it for the first quarter. And once you know, Rodney Gallagher once again, and we've called his name so many times on this show during the highlights, takes it in for 6, puts the Mustangs up 21-7. And once again, Gallagher on the quarterback draw, takes it himself, cross midfield, and in for another 6, puts the Mustangs up 28-7. And this play here, Uniontown starting to get some defense, and as you see here on a little pitch play, he's knocked out of bounds by that Uniontown defense. And then once again, Jackson up the middle. Good block by my other stepbrother, senior for Uniontown, Tanner Hawk, sets Uniontown up, and here they go again. Townsend finding Jackson once again, Miles. Jukes a couple defenders, nice block there, and into the end zone. Uniontown cuts the lead in half, 28-14, and then a little jet sweep. He needs to bounce to the outside, and he's stopped again by that Uniontown defense. And Coach Jeffrey, he's already making some big moves here. And once again, as you see here, that defense of the Red Raiders stepping up tall. And Uniontown starting to mount some offense. And so it's picked off by the Mustangs. And he's trying to get some blocks here, but cuts back here across the middle. Has open field, but nothing but his teammates in front of him. And in for 6, puts the Mustangs up 35-14. And that would be the it for the third quarter. In the fourth now, with a little over 5 to go. Backups are in now for the Mustangs, and another touchdown pass. And this puts them up 42-14. But here comes Miles now. Up the middle. For a decent gain. Townsend takes it himself, bounces to the inside, gets a couple blocks, sheds a few defenders, and is now in Mustang territory. However, the Red Raiders would stall out, and that would be your final score, 42-14 in final in the backyard brawl. Was really hoping the Red Raiders were going to be pulling out a win. This is their first year and as an independent team, but from what we've seen so far, Peyton, and from years past for the Red Raiders, they've not had 2 wins since I was there in 2012.
You know, it's been really rough for Uniontown, and I appreciate you trying to be loyal to them because, I'm loyal to my Cougars, obviously. And it's really unfortunate whenever, your hometown team, they don't do as great as you think they are. Look at Charlotte. They didn't even make the playoffs this year. I was really upset by that.
Yeah.
But, you get you get years like that, and sometimes it lasts more than 1 year, so you hope they get out of it soon, but it's just the sport of football, honestly.
Yeah, but definitely been a positive side You saw the air with Miles, Townsend, Jackson, and Tyler Hawk. You got a lot of good players there for Coach Jeffries in these upcoming years. Was looking at something, and he went back to the old 4-4 or blitz defense, which is it's something I ran when I was there. It's very effective, and it's caused a lot of problems for offenses. You're constantly having to check down on, and we've seen a lot during the game, which you don't see in these highlights. There was a couple delay of game penalties on the Mustangs, so it's already you see positive things are coming back for Uniontown, and this program can only build from here.
Exactly. You know, you mentioned that Miles, Townshend, you believe. I was watching him on the highlights. He might be small, but man, he's fast. Like, he was running right through that LH defense, and it's a wonder they didn't stop him more than once. But he's a really good player to build around for Uniontown, definitely.
So we'll see how they fare next year here as their season wraps up. But let's take a look at some other scores from around the area. As we have Albert Gallatin travel to Spring Mills for her final game of the season. The Colonials coming away with the victory 15-7. Armstrong traveled over to Indiana, and they came home with a victory in a playoff spot clinched, and as they win 42-22. Let's take a look at the next set of scores.
Up next, we have Avonworth traveling down to Quaker Valley. Avonworth easily picking up the dub 40-0. And then we had a very big game to decide the title. Bell Vernon and McKeesport battling it out in Bell Vernon. The Leopards able to come away with the victory 46-14, clinching that spot. And now they have a bye week in the playoffs, and they've done very good and definitely deserve it.
We were talking about that. We were wondering what was going to happen as we look at the next set of scores here. Beth Center traveled to Waynesburg in a tight one at that. Beth Center picking up the victory, and that was all they needed so they could clinch that playoff spot. Picking up the win 32-22. California traveled over to Bentworth and dominated this one and 65-7. And now California gets set for their playoff game. And let's take a look at the next set of scores.
Up next, we have the Mighty Mikes from Carmichael's battling it out against Jefferson Morgan in what was a little bit of a rivalry game there. Mighty Mikes coming away with the victory 40-6 on the road. Then we had my Charleroi Cougars battling out on senior night to face the Fraser Commodores. Charleroi able to pick up the win 33-6. Unfortunately, like I said, they would miss the playoffs, but a good season for them. Let's take a look at some more scores.
Elizabeth Forward traveled over to play. Hey, the Cougars are Yock up in there in the Cougar Arena. Warriors coming away with the victory 49-8. Leechburg wraps up their season against Greensburg Central Catholic. Can they post the victory on the road 31-27? Take a look at the next set of scores.
And then we have the Monessen Greyhounds battling out against Avella. Greyhounds able to pick up the win 14-6 and are able to clinch a playoff spot in the process. Then we had Plum traveling to Greensburg-Salem. Plum able to pick away the victory in a very close matchup, 30-27. And great effort by them. Let's take a look at some more scores here.
So we had Southmoreland traveling to South Park. The Scotties come away with the victory and finish off their regular season with a 28-14 win. Mount Pleasant played host for South Allegheny. South Allegheny goes on the road as well, and they come away with another victory, a 21-7. Take a look at the next set of scores.
Up next, we have Steel Valley traveling to Sarah Catholic. Steel Valley laying the smackdown 28-7. I believe that was a pick'em game.
That was one of our pick'em games last week.
I went with Steel Valley, just saying. Thomas Jefferson then battling against West Mifflin. The Jaguars able to pick up the victory quite easily, 49-0. Let's take a look at some more scores.
Wash High traveled to McGuffey in what we believed was going to be a big matchup in the title for the conference title there. Wash High, the Little Prexies come away with the victory, 41-34. West Green traveled to Mapletown. They also picked up a big win, and 31-12. Take a look at the next set of scores.
Up next, we have... take a look at some more scores here. That might be all we have.
Yeah, I believe
today.
that might be all our.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of games.
Oh, nope, here we go.
Here we go. Yep. So sorry about that, ladies and
A
gentlemen.
little technical difficulty.
Yeah. Then we had Woodland Hills traveling to Connellsville. Woodland Hills able to pick up the win 42-7, and that'll conclude a very abysmal season for Connellsville, finishing 0-10.
Ouch.
Not very good for them at all. Up next, we had Upper St. Clair battling against Bethel Park. Was a pretty close one, 21-14 in favor of Upper St. Clair. Believe we have some more scores to look at here.
That's all our scores for this week, Peyton. So when we come back, we're going to take a look at the final conference standings in the upcoming playoff brackets, plus our pick'em games of the week. So when we come back, we'll have all those and more over here on CUTV.
Back by popular demand and better than ever is late night dining in the Natali Student Center. Join us starting Monday, October 18th at the hot spot for evening dining, Natali Evening Eats, located on the second floor of Natali next to Umami. Open Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., and on weekends, 7:30 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., Natali Evening Eats is a one-stop shop for your favorite menu items. Orders can be placed through our mobile app or at the designated Evening Eats kiosk. We can't wait to see you there.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back here to High School Roundup, our playoff edition. And as we get set to take a look at the playoff bracket, I'm John Sakaguchi. As always, Peyton Trollinger. Peyton, we saw the final scores. We saw the highlights of everything going on. Everything's shaken out now. All the committee has determined the playoff brackets, so let's take a look at those now.
Let's get right into it, Johnny.
All right, starting off on the left side of the bracket, for 1A, Clareton draws the 1 seed. They will be in the bye round, as we have Greensburg Central Catholic taking on Our Lady of the Sacred Heart. West Green will host Springdale, and Rochester High will play Mapletown in the 5-12 matchup. Take a look at the right side of the bracket now. As we have Cornell hosting Monessen. Leechburg will play a California. Bishop Gannavant and will take on Burgestown, and Carmichael's will play Shenango. There's a lot of good matchups in that one, and I'm looking forward to a couple of these. Two of these might actually be our pick'em games of the week.
We'll talk about those pick'ems a little later. Let's take a look at our 2A bracket here, where we have Steel Valley drawing the number 1 seed. They will face off against Beth Center. Southside and Ligonier Valley will face off. The number 4 ranked Washington Little Prexies facing off against New Brighton, and Beaver Falls will host Western Beaver. I'm sure, and Western Beaver was able to pick up a win, I believe, there in the regular season. Let's see what happens in the playoffs. Let's take a look at the right side of the bracket now. Stowe Rocks finishing second in 2A will play host to Shadyside Academy. Chartiers Houston will be hosting a playoff game this Friday.
First time in a long time.
First time in a very long time. They will play host to Mohawk. Laurel will get the home field advantage as they will play host to the McGuffey Highlanders. And Sarah Catholic will get the home field advantage actually playing in Norwin High School, and will face off against Neshannock. Let's take a look at the 3A bracket now.
So looking here at 3A, Central Valley is going to get the first round bye. They'll await the winner of Southmoreland versus East Allegheny, along with Elizabeth Forward, who drew the 4th seed. They'll also have a first round bye as they'll wait for Ambridge and Freeport's matchup. Take a look at the right side of the bracket here. As North Catholic, your 2 seed, will await the winner of Keystone Oaks and East Allegheny. Avonsworth will await the winner of Mount Pleasant versus Brunel. Oh, and there's a couple interesting matchups there, Peyton, for sure. We'll talk about those later on. Moving over to 4A now.
For the 4A brackets here, Bell Vernon was able to draw that number 1 overall seed and will have the bye. Then we have a matchup between Highlands and Newcastle, which should be a really good matchup right there, an 8 and 9 matchup. Then Hampton will have the home field advantage as they will play Plum. TJ will have home field advantage against Indiana. The Jaguars looking to advance in there. They had a couple upsets this regular season.
And they are the defending state champions.
Yes,
so
they are.
They are going to look to defend their title. We'll see how that goes.
Let's take a look at the other side of the bracket now. Then we have Aliquippa finishing second in 4A. They'll get the bye week. Then we have Beaver playing host to Laurel Highlands, which should be a pretty good matchup right there as well.
I'm interested to see how that one goes.
And then we have McKeesport getting the 3rd seed, and we'll have the bye. And then they will await the winner of Armstrong and Montour. Now let's take a look at our 5A brackets now.
5A, we only have 2 games on this first side of the bracket to look at. That is Moon Area, and Gateway will get the first round bye. Bethel Park will take on Newcastle in the 8-9 matchup. Over in the 5-12 matchup, we have Penn Hills playing host to Franklin Regional. The Panthers looking to get back into the win column in the playoffs. We'll see what happens there. Take a look at the next side of the bracket. Over on the right side of the bracket, you have the Penn Trafford Warriors getting the first round bye, along with Pine Richland, and from where we saw Neil Walker, the former Pirate, making it, and out of his alma mater. We have Upper St. Clair versus Fox Chapel, and North Hills versus Peters Township, and a couple interesting matchups there. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that 7-10 matchup with Upper St. Clair and Fox Chapel. Moving on now to 6A.
And now for 6A, this bracket's going to move quite quickly. Not a whole lot of matchups here. Mount Lebanon's going to get the bye week because they finished number 1 in 6A. And then we have a matchup between the 4th and 5th seed, which is going to be a really good one here. North Allegheny will play host to Cannon Mac. That's going to be some fireworks right there.
That will be a wild one there for sure.
And then the number 3 Seneca Valley gets the bye week, as well as the number 2 Central Catholic, already going to be in the semifinals basically, and that'll be played at Baldwin High School. And I think that's also going to be a great matchup there.
Yeah, that's going to be some interesting ones in this, Peyton. Let's go back to that first at 1A bracket. There's a lot of good ones in there. As we talked about Clareton getting that first overall seed. And then let's talk, we have several schools in the area. We have California, West Green, Beth Center.
Chartiers, it goes on, yeah.
There's all in the playoffs, and we're going to be talking about these at least for another week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had a lot of teams making their first appearance. One that sticks out to me is Monessen, finally able to reach back into the playoffs. They've been out of the playoffs for quite some time now, and I'm sure they've wanted to keep pace with Charleroi. But, this is their chance to shine. They got the 15th seed. Who knows? They could play upset. You never know. It's high school football.
And especially here in the WPIAL. Oh, and let's not forget, we've seen a couple of those Cinderella stories. Mm-hmm. How many of those schools have we talked about out in years past where we watched them upset somebody? Hey, I can still remember going back to the 2010 playoff run that I was part of with Uniontown. Even though we were the higher seed host in Bell Vernon, they still favored us as the underdog, and we came out with the 21-20 victory, which was a fun one. And then we all know what happened the following week as Uniontown lost to Hampton. I'm not going to talk about that game. There's a couple of things that happened that still make me mad, but we're not going to talk about it. But we've seen schools like that where you have your Uniontowns, your Laurel Highlands, your Southmorelands, West Greens and all that coming out of nowhere and just pulling off these big victories. Derry did it a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. Needing one more win to make it into the WPIAL title game at Heinz Field. And now the question is, who's going to be that Cinderella team this year?
There's a lot of them. Just another one that really sticks out. Chartiers. We mentioned they're finally back in the playoffs. I remember when I played for Charleroi, we just always beat up on them, and to the point that the officials literally told our coach that, hey, you need to put your second string in. It was that bad. And just to see them finally not only get into the playoffs,
they're hosting a game.
They're hosting a playoff game, and they're ranked 7 in 2A, so that's nothing to sneeze at.
No, and honestly, I think that 2A bracket's probably going to be one of the harder brackets to play in next to that 1A.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we also still have to talk about 3A football yet with a couple different schools in that one as we go back to that one. If we can get that graphic one more time, please, Gary.
Yeah, that 3A bracket's going to be a lot. You got Southmoreland is also another one that has home field advantage. They got the 8th seed against East Allegheny. You got EF. EF doesn't even have to play anybody first round. They got a bye.
And those are two schools that we ended up talking about in here a lot, and they're from the area. Yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Southmoreland. And East Allegheny is nothing to sneeze at. And they had a tough schedule looking back, especially considering they had to play Freeport and Central Valley on that schedule. So I'm going to be interested to see what happens with that game. I mean, I'd love to see the Scotties come away with it, but they are going to uphill battle on that one for sure.
Yeah, they got the home field advantage, but that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. None of these games are going to be easy.
No, not at all.
And quite frankly, whatever you did up to this point doesn't matter. It's all about the playoffs right now, and it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter how you got there. You're here,
and then
that's what matters.
Yeah, and then we have 4A, which we have a bunch of our local teams in it, and you've got Bell Vernon, you've got McKeesport, Am I in the right classification for that?
Yeah, you're in 4A.
Want to make sure I was in 4A football. Because you gave me a look like, hold on, Johnny. But we got Bell Vernon, and we have TJ, Laurel Highlands, and McKeesport all making it in from that area. We also had Indiana making it in too. So we got some interesting matchups. I'm definitely going to keep my eye on Laurel Highlands and Beaver in that 7-10 matchup. So we don't want to be I'm not saying picking LH as a favorite in that one, but I definitely think they're going to have a fight on their hands against Beaver.
Yeah, like I said, none of these games are going to be easy. Especially that one, we've talked about LH a lot this season. We've seen them play. They dropped a few there in the regular season, but they were playing very quality opponents. Bell Vernon, TJ, McKeesport, back to back to back.
Yeah, I mean, that was 3 weeks in a row you're playing in the toughest opponents in your schedule. And the only teams you had faced that got you ready up to that point was Ringgold and West Mifflin. And then out of nowhere, here came the three-headed monster. I don't want to use that reference, but that's the only way I can describe it. It is the three-headed monster of McKeesport, who still, I think, was the dark horse of that conference this year. And then you had TJ, you had Bell Vernon, and I honestly thought that game with McKeesport was going to be a lot tougher after McKeesport the week prior had knocked off TJ. And we saw how that sprung Bell Vernon forward.
And, we also saw, too, TJ, they might be defending the title, but they haven't had the best season. They dropped a lot of really crucial games. And
you faced off with two of the toughest teams in your entire schedule with McKeesport and Bell Vernon. And also, you had to go on the road to those places, nonetheless.
Yeah, and, unfortunately, they didn't get the win, and it really hurt their not draft stock, their seeding. But we don't draft in high school football. But,
someone's getting ready for March.
But, they finished with the 5th spot. They could have been a lot higher, trust me. They might have even taken 3rd from McKeesport. But it's just about who wants it more and who's able to play.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one, Peyton. But we also have the 5A matchups to talk about. As we know, a couple of old teams that we talked about on this schedule earlier on, and with, I believe it was Penn Trafford we had in there.
Yeah, Penn Trafford.
Penn Trafford was one of the tougher ones. And Woodland Hills had a rough season to talk about, all just missing the playoffs as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Woodland Hills. They're going to have a battle too. They're playing Bethel Park.
Yeah, I honestly thought they missed the playoffs by one game. I actually forgot they're one of the lower seeds in this, but they got to go to Bethel Park, and that's not an easy place to play neither. Like going up to play Bell Vernon at the beach.
I've been there before, and it's a really nice stadium up there. But I can only imagine what it's going to be like when you got X amount of people just screaming at the top of their lungs for Bethel Park.
Yeah, that all these stadiums are going to be jam-packed. I guarantee you that it's going to be standing room only. It's going to be round the fence, a whole game for every stadium this week. Mm-hmm. And then 6A, we had some interesting matchups. The only one we got to talk about is Kane and Mac's game.
That's going to be just like I said, fireworks. I think are going to be just blowing up that game because they're right next to each other in the standings. Let me look here. I forgot. Yeah, North Allegheny, they did get that 4th seed over Can and Mac. They do have home field advantage, but like I said earlier, that doesn't mean anything really.
Yeah, and I have had friends that went to Can and Mac. I've talked with them about all certain games with them too, and they do. The Max fan base does travel.
I know they do.
They will be there ready to rock and roll. But that's all we got for the playoff bracket. It's when we come back, folks, we're going to wrap things up. We're going to have our pick'em standings. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.
The Cal U Vulcans are back on the gridiron this fall, and CUTV and WCAL give you the best seats in the house. September 2nd at Fairmont State. September 11th versus Lock Haven. September 18th versus Millersville. September 25th at Edinburgh. Homecoming October 2nd versus Mercyhurst. October 9th at Gannon. October 16th versus Clarion. The Coal Bowl October 23rd at IUP. October 30th versus Seton Hill. November 6th at Slippery Rock. November 13th at Bloomsburg or the PSAC title game. All games are live on CUTV Sports 1, the PSAC network, and 91.9 FM, WCAL.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to High School Roundup, our playoff edition of High School Roundup. I'm John Sakaguchi. Joined with me always, Peyton Trollinger. Peyton, so we got through the playoff brackets and everything now. We got 2 things left to do, but we'll start with the first one, and that's going to be our pick'em games of the week.
All right. Let's put them up on the board. All playoff action here. We have our pick'em games. Greensburg Central Catholic against Our Lady Sacred Heart. Then we have Carmichael's and Shenango. Chartiers Houston versus Mohawk. Beaver versus LH. North Hills versus Peters Township. And North Allegheny versus Can Mac. There's really not a bad game on there.
No, there's going to be a lot of interesting matchups, Peyton, and I'm definitely looking forward to some of these. But we'll give our picks here in a moment. And let's take a look now at the pick'em standings and how things shook out this week. Peyton and Bobby D still tied for first. Peyton, you went 6-0 last week.
I was trying to tell y'all I was coming back, and you guys didn't believe me.
Then we have Dylan, who started out in the basement and has made the biggest jump of the season. And along with Gary as well, as Dylan moves up to 3rd place at 25-15. I slid down to 4th. This is the lowest I've been in the entire season, and at 24-16. And tied with Gary for that spot. Doug, who slipped out of the a little bit, I should say, in the playoff ranking or the pick'em standings. And he's at 19 and that's supposed to be 19 and 21, and folks on there as well. With Colin and at 19 and 21. But I'm not surprised. Doug had a strong start, but he's been on a bit of a slippery slope lately with those pick'ems.
Mm-hmm. You've been on a little bit of a slippery slope too, Johnny.
I had one bad week.
But
I had one bad week. One bad week.
You're tied for 4th now, bud.
Hey, we still got playoffs to worry about yet, so don't count me out just yet.
All right, fair enough.
Which our pick'ems also leads me into our Dang It Dorgy of the Week.
Oh, here we go.
So our Dang It Dorgy of the Week goes to Bobby D. He was supposed to be here today, and then last second and had to cancel on us. So unfortunately, I was hoping he was going to be here for our playoff show.
I was really hoping to. I wanted to talk my stuff against him.
I don't know. Oh, you and Bob have been duking it out the last couple of weeks for that first spot. Believe me, Bobby knows what he's talking about when it comes to high school football.
I know that he is really good, but I'm here to prove newbies can do it too.
Hey, this is the first year you and I have hosted the show, and the first year having it back, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how some of these games shake out. But speaking of pick'ems as well, let's run back to those real quick, Peyton. What do you think a couple of those games are, or what are a couple of your picks?
All right. So I think for the Chartiers and Mohawk game, I'm gonna go with Chartiers on this one. You know, we've seen them play all year. You know, Mohawk, I haven't seen a whole lot of their footage, but I know how Chartiers can play. They've really turned that program around. They know how to put up some points, and I think they got the edge on that one. I'll even go, Carmichael's. I think Carmichael's is going to win over Shenango. Like I said, I'm not entirely sure about Shenango. I haven't seen the footage. I haven't seen their film, but I know how Carmichael's plays, and I also know they've done a lot of things with that program as well. They've completely turned it around, and I think they're going to continue to ride that momentum throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Carmichael's, we saw a lot of footage with them this season. They don't look bad. I think you might be right about them. They're probably going to duke it out and be one of them teams that ends up pulling it out somehow. But I'm going to also do 2 picks since you gave 2. I'm also going to do the Chartiers Houston game. I think the Buccaneers are going to come out with a win as well. It's going to be interesting to see how that works out. The other one that I'm going to keep an eye on is going to be that Laurel Highlands Beaver game. I think Laurel Highlands could end up playing spoiler on that one, going up to Beaver and pulling the upset. So I wouldn't be surprised Rodney Gallagher and company goes in there and does their thing and comes back with a victory and heads off to play. Who knows next
God
week?
knows.
So, that's going to do it for High School Roundup this time, folks. As for Peyton Trollinger and our producer, Gary Smith, who is doing multiple jobs in the booth today. Hey, thank you, Gary. Harry, we tip our hats to you. We'll be back next week with the results of this week's playoff matchups. So for High School Roundup, this is John Sakaguchi. He's signing off. We'll see you next week, folks.